So I was just I video myself every day, and then I was uploading it, and then I saw right before it got uploaded, there's one restriction found. And I'm so against restrictions. I mean, I'm so for restrictions that I'm just having to ask myself, what is the thing that got restricted? It didn't say. So the most testy material, I'm thinking, which parts was it? Which parts was parts? I have no clue. So I have to make up for all the parts that could have been bad, which is basically anything in there. So within an entire 10 minutes is going to be really boring listening to anything I'm about to say in the next 5 minutes. Hopefully it's like a coin flip. We can get half edited out so that we can get 5 minutes of something better edited in. It's not going to be better, but the makeup of such is going to be the counterpart for the submissiveness of the. Oh, I thought there was one interesting thing that it kept cutting in and out where there was so much wind, and then with so much wind there was parts of it that it wasn't like the wind changing, it was the literal audio was misfiring. So it sounded like those bullhorns where you put your mouth behind a bullhorn, and then it sounds like it's on like a radio intercom. And so I think that had to be induced by the wind, because the wind is the only thing that was that erratic that could have triggered it. And it wasn't the blowing of a wind, it was a binary like misfire, so that it entered me into a different audio that was really, really quiet and really, really different. So if you can get two things to be interlocked, quiet and different, it can make for escape that is used as a hotkey. And this hotkey is like a button that is utilized only if two of its exceptions are met, where it's equaled out by the initiated triggering of it. So the initiating triggering had to have been quiet and bullhornish, or the opposite of the two. So when it's equaling out, it can be more or less. As long as it's within both, it's gonna hit the sweet spot of the hitbox of two. And so that's why I think hitboxes are so important with, like, I don't want it to mirror image the interplay of like freedom and liberty, because if you do have physical hitboxes accounted for you, it's the same as the mark of the beast in the Bible, where it's the markings on your body. So that's the two would be the same as like having two hitboxes. And so if you get that, then you don't need an environment anymore. So the environment is one of the hitboxes, and your soul, you claiming that you don't have one, if you receive the mark of the beast, that's the second hitbox. So you are part of the environment. That's why God says don't live worldly, because he doesn't want you to be labeled as the physical environment of the world. And this is probably going to get restricted. I'm trying to not get restricted. I'm talking about restrictions is going to get you restricted. Whereas flowers, I think there's like ones called baby's breath or dragon's breath, and one of them, they do like look like a dragon's skull. So the interplay between plant matter and then dragon's skull is something I was trying to tap into earlier, is the difference between plant life and a flesh of an animal, meat. So when you're cooking a meat of a flesh animal, you can overcook it and it turns into like a charcoal. And this is equal to how a flower is burnt, it turns into ash. Or if it's really dense, it'll be somewhat charcoal. And so in this regard, they're both disregarded for the same acclaim. but they're two different. So I'm thinking when your body is metabolizing it, your acidic acids in your stomach are breaking it down the same way as a burn, but it's just a slow burn, so it's able to extract nutrients that way. But that aside, if you just get something such as, there's this one fruit that is incredibly, like, it smells like a decomposing carcass, and there's actually quite a bit of fruits that you would think they were flesh if they didn't have any taste in it, if your taste buds were gone. They're so chunky, some of them, that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the physical texture of it and like a different type of flesh, because there's a whole bunch of different animals that have different textured meat. And so just the interplay of how closely they're related is a big interest, because the animals were used for sacrifice in the Old Testament. It's the same on tundra. If you're falling on the gravel and then you hit black ice or a wet bag that has soap on it, you're gonna slip as your feet are falling from under you. Now you're going to be head over heels falling, and you hit the slick surface. It doesn't change just as the magma and the earth isn't gonna recoil different just because that is an occurrence calculated to do such. If extreme things were necessary, as extreme things being necessary. So things that are rudimentary, they can't be taken for granted because they're there before the granite was taken. If you're falling and you all of a sudden hit like a ledge, and so as that ledge getting hit with your fall, the ledge is stronger than your body, so you are obstructed in a position of that strong solid object. Your ability to gather yourself, you now have to regather yourself. Just because there's a loss in dimension, like if your handlebars twist and your balance is discorded, doesn't mean that there's a loss of two things, mainly overdrive and a afterburner. So if Leatherface made epidermis dolls, what would the geometrics configure? Perhaps they might have an idea in here. As a hyperbola could encapsulate both, is just how uniquely it does it is the art in like motion. Just as saying the prehistoric and post-date are similar, just as the afterburners and overdrive. Especially baskets, because that's the difference of the two, because it's more intricate. What these surmount is great arrays of impulsory. Why would we need that? It's closer to fusion, and when you have the ability to obtain fusion properties, you can do the miraculous. The miraculous is easier to find you. So when you're doing a dive bomb or a power lunge, the environment will actually encumber more options onto you. This is what Faraday cage is, and why it needs to be intertwined with a quantum electrodynamic. And I hate saying quantum, and I hate talking about religion, because it seems like an easy scapegoat, where if you're watching this in 20,000 years, or if it was 20,000 years ago from today, you wouldn't have either of those. So I think I'm a brainiac enough where I can utilize light is an interaction where a thing inside of it, I believe, is a diagonal. I plot it that diagonal, if interacted with utilizing a bin or a basket or even a bag, is done properly, it's going to have a property where it is like a key in a lock. If you get the right combo, you're going to get it twist, and that twist is going to be able to bank off of the miss. So yesterday I was wondering about shapes, triangles, cylinders, spheres, you name it. And there's things that are solids and liquids. Solids, they go in bags, and then liquids, they're contained in containers. Let's call them bins. and they do fantastic things like bags can turn into pendulums, and the thing at the bottom would be considerably interesting when it's used to sway. And then bins can elongate light. Let's take a look about the bend.